How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So now we have the Six Nations. It's done and dusted. It's in the record books. I wanted to go through a quick debrief of the Six Nations and kind of rate how each team did from good to bad, whether they met their expectations. And I want to hear what you guys think in relation to this. How well did your team do? Do you think they lived up to the expectations? What are the key points in the Six Nations for them? So before I continue, please like and subscribe, as it really does help my channel grow. And I just want to be providing you guys with the best content possible. So without further ado, let's break it down. We are going to start with, unfortunately, the wooden spoon holders in Wales. Now, this isn't all doom and gloom. Yes, they did start off the season. Well, they started off the Six Nations. Well, they could have started off better with a big loss to France in the opening day. And I don't think the Welsh are going to be forgetting that anytime soon. But through the horrible performances, yes, Wales have not got another win under their belt. They are still searching for it, but we are starting to see a lot more promise. After Gatland was ultimately sacked, which I was kind of expecting, I didn't think he was going to make the entire Six Nations. And honestly, I think it should have been done before the Six Nations. Things were really bad under Gatland. There wasn't any play. They were toothless. They were a shadow of themselves. You know, it's not something that you normally tend to compare this Wales side up against old Welsh sides, and you think, yes, you know, there's something there. But it does show that there is quality, there is talent in the ranks. As we saw Warren Gatland, he ended up getting fired. We saw Matt Sherratt take over for the remaining games of the Six Nations. He brought in players like Gareth Anscombe, he brought in players like Max Llewellyn and so on, and immediately we started to see a big effect. We started to see the players, they were more dynamic, they were faster, they were more aggressive. You know, they were fighting a lot more. They were already pretty good in terms of the scrum, but they were just that little extra oomph. You know, whenever Wales ended up getting on the ball, you kind of felt like something was going to happen, which it didn't under Gatland. It just, you know, it just felt flat. But when Matt Sherratt came in, we saw an immediate change. So what was the reason for this? Why didn't they want to play under Gatland? Because the talent is there, but it wasn't being played under Gatland, right? We saw big performances and Jack Morgan, as always, putting in a stellar performance. But this short-term form does not relate to an entire performance, right? Wales, the only points that they managed to get on the board were from their bonus points, which, funny enough, if they actually had to win any of the games, they probably would have finished above Italy, who managed to get 5 points but only 1 bonus point. Whereas Wales, they actually managed to get 3 bonus points. So that kind of shows you the back end on Matt Sherratt's time, how well they actually played. So is this promising for Wales? Yes, it is actually very promising, and I'm actually glad to be saying that later on in the year we could potentially see a different Welsh side, but there's a lot of changes that need to be made. We are still waiting to see exactly who is going to be taking over that Welsh job, and with a lot more training, a lot more experience under their belt, it's going to be interesting to see what kind of side comes later on this year. So all in all, in terms of Wales' performance, again, underperforming, considering who they are and what they do. But the second half of the Six Nations was definitely a very big improvement. And I'm so happy to say that they finally look like they have that bite. You know, they have that aggression, they have that fight in them, which I would love to see you know, really improve over the next coming months, and see them take that into the next set of games. So ultimately, Wales, they didn't exactly do very well. Yes, they got the wooden spoon, and it's horrible to see, but there are glimpses of brilliance there, which I am very happy to see. Moving on into Italy, again, they are not the Italy of old. They are not the Italy that, will easily crumble, the team that people send their B team against, their youth teams and so on, and the team that people want to experiment with. Italy are no joke, especially when you have players like Menoncello, Brex, Capuzzo, Garbisi, Nicotera, Ferrari, all of these players are elite level players that are no joke. They took Ireland very, very far and put a lot of scare into them as well. Ultimately, they did end up losing, but the performances that were there, they were strong. Yes, they got absolutely annihilated and demolished by France. But to be fair, how many teams didn't? The only team that didn't was England, who actually ended up beating them. But Italy, again, they are growing stronger year by year. The talent that's coming through is improving. They are getting faster. They are getting quicker. They're having a better understanding of the game. They're having that better bond. Yes, the coach, he doesn't necessarily like to um, veer too much from, his standard, but we see the standard that is then. It's a very, very good standard, right? It's not easy to break into this team. The players that are there are, fighters, absolutely, absolute fighters. And you see just how strong their forwards are, how versatile their forwards are. It is ridiculous. And then having a player like Brex on your side definitely does come in handy because, I think everybody could do with a Brex in their team. He's just one of those players that he gets things done. He just gets things done. But ultimately, Italy, honestly, for me, I feel that they were as expected. I wasn't expecting them to, to uproot trees. I wasn't expecting them to get wins over the big three. Um, and I just wasn't expecting anything super, super crazy from Italy. For me, they met my expectation. I don't know about the Italians or anyone else out there, but for me, in terms of expectation, what I was expecting Italy to do in the Six Nations, they kind of fell dead smack. Where I saw them losing to the big ones, beating Wales, and yeah, but definitely some big performances from a lot of players, which I just want to see this form continue in to later on this year, see how well they play, and then come the next Six Nations, I think it's going to be another big, big fight. Especially if Wales can finally break that duck, get a couple wins under their belt, and then start pushing for more. So, Italy for me met expectation, exactly where I thought they were going to be, and some big performances in there as well. So very, very promising. Next, we move into fourth, Scotland. Um, what can I say about Scotland? Honestly, individually, they played so well. They had such crazy performance on an individual scale. It just felt like as a team, they weren't there. They didn't gel right. They had big performances. They were just too leaky in defense. They were not able to sustain an entire 80 minutes. They made unnecessary mistakes, as we saw with Finn Russell and Brex, where he literally passed the ball to Brex and let him wide open in for a try. But there were too many unnecessary mistakes that were made. Um, and you look at the England game, a lot of people are saying, look, England didn't win it, Scotland lost it. And I just feel that that fighting mentality, that composure was just lacking in this tournament. Finn Russell had up and down. I mean, we saw Finn Russell, the way he played in the last game. Even though Scotland lost, Finn Russell put in a brilliant, brilliant performance. And he is such a good player. And like I say, on his day, he is one of the most scary number 10s you're going to see around. But when he's having a bad day, he really is his worst enemy. And it just makes it even that much worse. So, honestly, in terms of Scotland, for me, they underperformed. I thought that they were going to be coming into this Six Nations potentially taking a couple big wins off of some of the bigger teams. But I say bigger teams. I'm talking about France and Ireland, who were essentially favorites to winning this. But honestly, I was expecting Scotland to potentially come third. But yeah, came fourth. I mean, they got 11 points, three bonus, and yeah, it was just, in my opinion, a very disappointing Six Nations for them, considering how good the players are, how we know that they can perform. And I mean, you look at the likes of Black Kinghorn, the guy was practically topping every single chart that you could possibly want individually. You know, Darcy Graham had good performances. Yes, he did have that little accident, but Darcy Graham had individual performances. Van der Merwe had individual performances. Tom Jordan, Hugh Jones had individual performances, and these are some of the key backs that, really caused havoc for so many people, but they just kept letting in tries, and, they were leaving unnecessary space open. They were not putting the pressure as it needed to be, when it needed to be. And it just felt like at points they were just being overpowered, overworked. And by the end of the game, they were dead. And, you know, they just didn't have that fight to continue. So honestly, I mean, I say that, but you look at the performance again that's putting up against France. Yes, they did use that 7-1 split, which is scary at times. But honestly, I still think they put up a pretty damn good fight, especially Van der Merwe. He really, really, he tried to make something happen. He really tried something to make happen, and you cannot doubt that guy's fight and willingness to try and make something happen. But unfortunately, he just he couldn't manage it by himself. So for me, Scotland seriously underperformed, and I'm hoping that things are changed. They get their heads on right and come into the later on this year the tests with some good performances leading into potentially next Six Nations. So yeah, not not the happiest when it comes down to Scotland. I wonder what you Scottish seem to think, because honestly, I feel the Scottish, they have the ability. They know that they can play so well, but whether it's the results that didn't go their way, or just, I don't know, that composure, losing their heads, which ultimately became their own demise. So let me know what you guys think in relation to that. Moving on into third place, Ireland. Now, outright, I'm going to say this: Ireland underperformed like there is no tomorrow. I was expecting them to come in. They were favorites for the Grand Slam. Everyone was talking about them getting that three-peat, you know, hat trick of Six Nations wins. They were supposed to be the thing. They were supposed to break that record, and ultimately they fell short. And it was the French game that really, really derailed them, because up until that France game, they were so, they were so heavily touted for everything, and they put in, brilliant performances. We saw the way they played up against England. We saw the way they played up against Scotland, and that was supposed to be, that game, that crucial game. And like I said, this France and Ireland game was going to be the title decider. Ultimately, it was. I was expecting there to be a giant fight, but Ireland to nick it in the end. I was expecting a late try from Ireland, keeping it close, and then Ireland nicking the game in the end, and then ultimately finishing off the Six Nations with wins over Wales and with wins over Wales and Italy. But that didn't happen. France had their own agenda and put them to the sword, and we just saw Ireland's game just go down and down and down and down, and they were a shadow of what they were come the beginning of the tournament. So again, individual performances. We have the likes of Dan Sheehan, who's just an absolute monster. He's booked himself his flight, for the Lions tour to Australia. He doesn't even need to wait for Andy Farrell. He can just stop booking everything right now and just go down to Australia and start preparing. But big performances. We saw the likes of Prendergast come in. He managed to get a couple extra caps to his name, put in some good performances. I'm really happy to see that he's such an up and coming star. Unfortunately, I can't see him getting a Lions spot, but that doesn't mean next year. In the next 4 years, he's not going to have that. It is just such a shame. It's only happening every 4 years. So we would see what Prendergast, 24, 25, around there ish. By the time the Lions next come back around, and just imagine what kind of a player Prendergast is going to be at that age. So I can't see him getting a spot on that plane, but he put in some seriously good performances. He's definitely making Andy Farrell, take a second look at him. But yeah, Ireland again had such good performances. That France game really derailed them. It looked like it just, gave them a real kick in the back, and they just couldn't really get up with momentum. And we saw it at the back end of the Six Nations, where they really struggled. I say that really struggled, but Wales put, a lot of fight to them, and you would not expect Wales to be leading Ireland at any point in the game, but they were. And, they really put a lot of pressure on that Ireland side. And then we saw the likes of Italy do the same, where Italy only managed to lose by a couple points, which, again, you wouldn't be expecting that from Ireland versus Italy. So, and not, this is quite possibly the biggest disappointment that I've seen in the Six Nations for this year. The big favorites, the people who were expected to go in and just destroy everything, and having their only competition as France, came out struggling up against Italy, struggling up against Wales, but putting in solid performances up against England and Scotland. So yeah, big underperformers. And honestly, look, last year Ireland won the Six Nations with 20 points. Ireland managed 19 points, 3 bonus points. So they weren't far off their title winning side from last year, but still ultimately fell short. Moving into my second place, England. England were a team that I was not expecting to play this well, if that makes sense. They from the autumn nations, I was expecting them to improve and get a better handle on things. Come the beginning of the Six Nations, I was expecting England to finish fourth. So my original predictions were Ireland, France, Scotland, England, Italy, and then Wales. So I was quite wrong in terms of that list, but I was not expecting England to come in the way they did. Borthwick made some key changes, making the likes of Maro Itoje captain, playing the likes of Finn Smith at the back end of the season, which I think really made a big difference. And to be able to keep Marcus Smith out of that 10 position is not easy. But I think it's more just like a positional play. It's, a kind of tactical stylist of it's a different style of play to Marcus, which I think Finn fits the style that Borthwick wants a little better than Marcus. But we've seen ever since Finn Smith got that cap, he's been keeping Marcus out of that 10 spot. So Marcus was sent to 15. There was even talks about 9, 12, putting him wherever. He started on the bench, but quickly ended up saying to Borthwick, look, I'm not a bench player, after he was brought on, and then he bagged himself a try and an assist. So, that kind of said to Borthwick, start me. In which case, the next game, guess what? He started, but again at 15, not at 10. So players like Finn Smith having that connection of that Saints back, those Saints backs, having the likes of Tommy Freeman, Ollie Slightholm, Dingwall, Finn Smith, Alex Mitchell, that combination, that connection, I feel really worked well for England. And I think this is what we're going to end up seeing later on in the year. They're going to continue this, they're going to carry on this momentum into the later on in this in the year, and then really start making a lot of ground, especially when we're going to have a lot of players coming out of injury. It would be lovely to see um, it would be lovely to see Furbank come back, because then that's going to add an extra layer of competition for that 15 spot. It's going to be lovely to see Faye Boso come back in from injury. I don't think he's going to get a Lions spot, but later on in the year, in the later tests, it's going to be interesting to see who's going to get those spots, because we have seen Tommy Freeman, especially in the last game, Tommy Freeman coming in at center, right, allowing Roebuck a position. But if we have Faye Boso, we could potentially see a Finn Smith. So it'd be Finn Smith, Ollie Slightholm, Faye Boso, Alex Mitchell, Finn Smith, Ollie Slightholm, Faye Boso, Dingwall, and Tommy Freeman at centers, and then a potential Furbank at 15, or Marcus at 15. So there's going to be that Saints connection, which is really good. And we've seen the connection with the likes of Tommy Freeman and Furbank in the Autumn Nations, where they scored an absolute worldie. That mental connection is just ridiculous. So yeah, England, I would say that they are the biggest overperformer in the entire Six Nations, from where I was expecting them to be to where they are, how they played, the consistency that they ended up playing. They got 20 points plus 4 bonus points. Again, Ireland won the Six Nations last year with 20 points. So yeah, England put in a sublime performance and absolutely killed it. And then moving into the French. What can be said about the French other than magnifique? It's just the way they played. Yes, they lost up against England, but again, England were such a strong side, and they made such improvements. And yes, there's a lot that still needs to be done for England, but they managed to get a win. And the only team that managed to beat France is England, who ultimately came second by 1 point, right? And the only reason they came second was because of that bonus point that France ended up getting off of Scotland. Obviously, there is the points difference, which, France still would end up winning. But what I'm saying is England weren't far at all. But the French, the way that they played, the attacking ability, the backs, the likes of Thomas Ramos becoming the highest points holder for France. We had the likes of Bielbiaré banging in 8 tries in 5 games, competing with Cyril Lowe and I think it's Smith, with 8 tries in a single tournament. We had Damien Penaud just so close to breaking his duck. Well, I say breaking his duck, but he's equal on tries, and he's going to be getting that really soon. He's still in his 20s, but this just shows how strong these French are. They are ridiculous. They are so fast. We have the likes of Atisogbe as well, who was kept out because of Damien Penaud. And every time Atisogbe played, he touched that ball, he was just dangerous. Then you had the likes of Aldred, who put in absolute ridiculous performances. Boudahan, Kroos, Gross, who kept Cyril Baillet out of the squad. Malvaka, Giard, again, a player who started on the bench, ultimately taking that starting spot at lock, having Miafal come on as an impact player. Giard put in some brilliant performances. Flament put in just like, oh my God, like, wow, ridiculous. But then you still have played like Ruma and, Winnie Antonio, and the list just goes on. Aldageri came on, and this goes down to their 7-1 split. And like I say, not everybody can do the 7-1 split. It takes a real specific kind of team. And France managed to do that. Their style of play, their lineups, it was very, very risky. But ultimately, you don't take risks, you're never going to win properly. And that is exactly what France did. They took the risk. They risked it for the biscuit. And guess what? They got the whole bloody tin. So France played their absolute socks off. It is a shame to see Antoine Dupont injured and out, and it's horrible to see. But ultimately, France killed it, and they deserved to win the Six Nations. They really, really do. On it, I'm not going to say that they are the most, you know, most improved or anything like that, most unexpected, because ultimately it could have gone either Ireland or France's way. It went France's way, but I still hold it for England to be the biggest winners in terms of performance and what was expected. Everyone was kind of expecting something similar from France. I don't think they were expecting France to use that 7-1 split, but ultimately, brilliant, brilliant, brilliant work. So, guys, what can be said? My predictions were so bloody far off. I think we should stop making predictions. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I want to hear from you guys. Who do you support? To who was your team, and what was the biggest performance in the Six Nations for you? So let me know in the comment section below. Please like and subscribe, as it really does help my channel grow. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye.